Hey everybody, it's Saturday, April 18th, 2026. Another critical day in the ongoing standoff between the US and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz. And the biggest breaking development right now is Iran is firing on a tanker near Oman just hours after they've reclosed the Strait of Hormuz, is what they're telling the world now. So right out of the gate, one key operational detail you need to know is how U.S. naval forces are enforcing that port blockade with Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyers, Aegis-equipped beasts that give us unmatched radar coverage and the ability to track and turn back vessels. And these are the ships that now might be called upon to take out these Iranian fast boats because they're basically closing the strait again when they said they wouldn't. Are we surprised? Oh, the IRGC going against what they told us they would do. Oh, yeah, we're all very shocked at this point. But Iran's regime wasted no time with tough talk, as they do. Their supreme leader, Majabta Khamenei, who is basically just a cardboard cutout, now has apparently come out of the woodwork, or at least the cardboard work, and he declared that the country's brave navy stands ready to make the enemy's taste the bitterness of new defeats. Wow. While the Iranian military command justified the reclosure and gunfire as a response to alleged U.S. piracy and ceasefire breaches on the American side. And the U.S.'s pressure on Iran isn't some random patrol. It's disciplined American sea power applying steady professional pressure to get Iran to the table on the U.S.'s terms. Obviously, Iran wants to come back to the table and not get crushed militarily again if the conflict kicks back off. But the key is bringing them back to the table on the U.S.'s terms, which is why the blockade has stayed in effect. Basically telling Iran, hey, you don't want to get crushed again? You don't want to be a cardboard cutout for the rest of your life? Well, come to the table with something that actually makes sense. But it is weird that we thought there was some sort of a regime change that took place, but Majabta Khamenei, the son of the Ayatollah that killed 40,000 of his own people, is now supposedly coming out with some statements. So let's pop to X and then to the map to get the latest breaking update on what went on, and we'll go to the map to show where this actually took place.
Hey everybody, here we are on X. Let's have a listen to the ship that was said to have been fired upon by the IRGC, and then we'll pop to the map to look at the area where the IRGC fired upon this boat.
Sepa Navy. This is Motoring Hassan Marhedal. You gave me clearance to go. My name second on your list. You gave me clearance to go. You are firing now.
Wow.
Let me turn back.
So was that just confusion, or is this something a little more calculated on behalf of the IRGC? But you can tell the captain of the ship is shocked. So clearly the IRGC gave him clearance to go and then ended up opening fire anyways. So does this give us a little insight into the mindset of the mafia? I mean, the IRGC. At this point, you can see the tanker captain just is like, come on, guys, let me through. You said I could go. I'm on your list. And then they open fire anyways. And here we are on the map, my friend. So let's look at the exact area where the firing on the ship actually took place. So it was very close to Larak Island. And this is the place where we knew that Iran set up the Iran-Larak toll booth, where IRGC gangsters were basically here ready to take on any ships to collect the bounty. This is where they wanted to collect their $2 million bounty from. So roughly just out here is where the actual firing is said to have taken place, with the IRGC firing on one of the oil tankers. So they went up above the actual minefield here. So this is the suspected minefield that Iran said they had at one point. And then this is Larak Island right here. And right about this area is where the ship was turned around. Are we surprised? Weird. Iran going against their word. We thought these were stand-up guys. We thought these guys could date our sisters. Man, we're all just really shocked at this point.
And then all this standoff in the Strait of Hormuz has opened up some pretty interesting deals in the United States. And I came across this one. The president touted a $300 billion historic Texas refinery as first new U.S. plant in nearly 50 years. This is a project in Brownville, Texas, the first new U.S. refinery, promising thousands of jobs. So as the Strait of Hormuz shows some disruptions, it shows that getting your oil from Iranian-controlled Strait of Hormuz might not be the best idea. Meanwhile, touting these new Texas refineries as consistent oil where you're not going to get a blockade or you're going to get your boat fired upon like some of these Indian vessels have gotten shot at. No one wants that. So this is kind of 4D chess in action, saying, hey, you don't want to get your oil from a very disrupted part of the world? Well, come to America. We've got plenty. And then in a couple little highlights, the US will be releasing a massive amount of UFO files, which is just cool. So I'll keep you posted on that. And also, Top Gun 3 is in the works. So let's tell them, let's scream it from the rooftops, Top Gun Max needs to be Top Gun 3. I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page with that. But seriously, I want to be in Top Gun 3, so tell everybody you know. But when the US Navy rolls in after some sort of an incident like this, Iran is going to start feeling some serious pressure in places they never thought they would feel that kind of pressure. But how Iran reacts when the pressure keeps mounting on them is going to decide whether this standoff cools down or if it boils over into something way more serious and we see the conflict kick off again. But exactly what happened in the last 12 hours was a clear act of escalation that shows Iran's willingness to threaten global energy security, to reimpose strict military control over the Strait of Hormuz on April 18th, just hours after briefly reopening it as a limited gesture tied to the fragile ceasefire. The move came straight in response for what they say was the United States keeping the naval blockade on Iranian ports in place, which Washington is enforcing to ensure that any final peace deals actually come to the terms of the United States' choosing. The IRGC gunboats are likely the ones responsible here. It's pretty much what they have left. IRGC gunboats have machine guns. They also have the ability to launch drones themselves. They went after commercial shipping, trying to make a lawful transit. These ships are just trying to get through. They were told they could go through. And then we heard the audio where the ship captain's like, seriously? You told me we could go through, and then you're just taking it back? Like, you guys are wild. You're crazy. Imagine that. The IRGC acting like a mafia arm. Yeah, we never saw that coming. But they fired on that vessel about 20 nautical miles northeast of Oman, forcing most traffic to halt or reverse course. This is unprovoked aggression, really, by Iran. Not anything the U.S. necessarily did besides the blockade, which Iran is saying is the main reason of why they did this. We're being shown that this whole area is so volatile that these oil flows are at risk once again, and it highlights why the U.S. is going to likely need to ramp up some of the pressure on these IRGC factions to actually get them to shut down and not strike these tankers anymore. So maybe seeing forceful action against these tankers is something that could happen here very soon. But here's how it likely went down. A primary engagement hit that tanker whose captain reported 2 IRGC gunboats closing in with 0 VHF, radio challenge, or warning. So was this some faction of the IRGC? I mean, who's really in control of Iran at this point? We really don't know. So could this just be some spin-off, a wild group that wants to reclaim power? And they're just doing whatever they want? Well, the UK Maritime Trade Operations Center confirmed the gunboats opened fire directly on the vessel, forcing the tanker to reverse course. The ship and crew are confirmed safe with no injuries or major damage, but the whole thing was captured in real-time alerts, and it shows Iran's reckless disregard for standard naval protocols right now, and it's a message to all the other ships to turn around. U.S. officials have called this a blatant violation to the ceasefire, so will this turn into something bigger? It definitely has the chance to, but a second vessel in the same area took gunfire or a projectile shortly after this initial engagement, damaging several containers. It didn't cause any fires or oil spills or crew injuries, at least at this point from what we know. We've heard the audio intercepts basically sealing the strait all over again. These attacks on these peaceful ships basically show the cards of the IRGC that their number one goal is to use their threat on the Strait of Hormuz and this peaceful shipping in order to have that last domino at the table when it comes to these negotiations. But these US sailors might be called in now to lay down the law on the IRGC boats using their Aegis class destroyers, their 5-inch guns, and if they unleash on the IRGC will get a close quarters pounding that'll leave them leaking from every hole. But as Tehran keeps pushing these gunboat stunts, the real test is whether they can handle the full weight of American resolve should this conflict kick back off, or should these naval vessels actually be unleashed on these IRGC gunboats. So what are they using? The IRGC gunboats, they're fast, lightly armed patrol craft, built for hit and run harassment in confined waters like the Strait. And today, they prove that they're willing to use them aggressively against unarmed merchant vessels. Yeah, nice job. You basically shot at a completely unarmed vessel. Congratulations. So these moves are classic Iranian IRGC playbook, using the threat to global shipping as a bargaining chip, but they're running straight into the steady professional wall now of the US naval power that's right there in the blockade. So likely not going to go very well for any of these fast attack craft. But how Iran reacts under this pressure as the naval blockade keeps mounting is going to decide whether this standoff cools off or boils over into something way more serious. But as President Trump said that the US blockade will remain in full force until the transaction with Iran is 100% complete, he called Iran's actions blackmail that the United States won't allow. He kept a note of optimism about the weekend talks, but made it crystal clear that without a deal soon, the ceasefire might not hold. And he said, his quote was, "We will have to start dropping bombs again." That contrast, measured American strength versus Iranian gunfire, is exactly why the US approach is the one protecting the rules-based order in the ocean right now. Those audio recordings, the actual gunfire, VHF intercepts from the Sanmar Herald incident are out there for anyone to hear. Proof positive of who's really escalating the situation right now. But what is the hardware that's being used to take on Iran and might be being unleashed on those fast boats right now, for all we know? That's the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers with their Aegis combat systems. They're the backbone. I mean, let's just be honest. They're the backbone of the whole blockade right now. Those are 9,000-ton Aegis warriors packed with SPY-1 radars, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and SM-6 interceptors that give the U.S. layered defense and the ability to track and engage threats hundreds of miles away while enforcing blockades just like this. But when it comes to taking out those fast attack craft, like those IRGC gunboats, taking them out with a 5-inch gun, that might be a little uncomfortable because the U.S. Navy vessels might have to get a little too close to those fast attack craft to actually strike them with that 5-inch gun. Bring in the A-10. Yep, whenever you're in doubt, just bring in the A-10. If you even think about the A-10, just bring it in. But that is an air warrior beast. That's the Thunderbolt II, also lovingly known as the Warthog. It could be launched from different bases in the area. There are dozens of A-10s in the Middle East right now, just chomping at the bit, ready to be unleashed on these Iranian fast boats. But it would bring in its GAU-8 Avenger 30mm cannon with up to 1,174 rounds. And it can carry depleted uranium, armor-piercing incendiary rounds, or high-explosive incendiary ammo that's basically like a mini grenade once it hits those small, fast attack boats. I mean, one shot from that, the hull, the engine, one single pass, and it's over for those fast attack boats. Also, don't sleep on the F-15E Strike Eagle that carries the M61 Vulcan 20mm cannon with about 500 rounds of HEI, high explosive incendiary for you acronym lovers. Perfect for quick, accurate strafing runs that turn agile boats into floating scrap metal. And then the FA-18s out there, we all know that. It's blasting off of the USS Abraham Lincoln. That thing's got 578 rounds. It can do armor-piercing rounds, incendiary ammo as well, to rip through anything trying to harass shipping. So will these actual aircraft be flying sorties, that means missions, up above the Strait of Hormuz to protect the shipping and see if Iran's actually going to stand by their word? Nothing says we're going to trust but verify better than having 10 A-10 Warthogs and 10 F-15E Strike Eagles up ahead. We trust you, but we're just going to verify. We just wanted to give you a little air show as we're verifying that you're not striking any of these vessels that you said you wouldn't. Let's move to the 4D chess strategic analysis section. And you guys know me, I just love to say 4D chess. 4D chess in this situation is the U.S. forcing the blockade to remain in effect on Iranian ports. Any of their oil flow, any of their money is completely being blocked off right now. So it could, I mean, we don't know, it is Iran after all, it could make them come a little more close to the U.S.'s terms when it comes to the negotiation. The U.S. is using the naval blockade as measured leverage, keeping the blockade firm but not escalatory, ideally, but in this case, Iran could force the U.S. Navy's hand if they continuously attack these ships when they say they shouldn't. Now these Aegis ships are going to have to unload on these Iranian fast boats. This is Iran's reckless gunboat tactics, and they're using them to try to get leverage and to try to basically get the high ground before these talks kick back off. And freedom of navigation matters, obviously, in the Strait of Hormuz if the energy is to keep flowing. So Iran is seeing this as their last domino to have any ability to still control the Strait of Hormuz. And the US is using the threat of resumed strikes as a backstop, basically showing Iran, hey, you want to play around and find out, okay, cool. We've got our entire US Air Force contingent, Navy in the area. So if you want to get a little desperate at this point, we're here to help you understand that the US can just start this conflict back over again. Not that that's what the world wants or needs. Nobody really wants that to happen, but Iran is basically proving that they're not really willing to come to the table without the leverage of closing the Strait of Hormuz. So they could just do it again. They could agree to something in the negotiations and then just close it again if that's going to be their tactic. So there you go, guys. Wrapping this all up, the US is once again showing the world that they're going to force that naval blockade on Iran. They're going to push their ships in, and I said ships for the record. The Iranian aggression that we're seeing today, is it actual frustration, or is this them just showing the US, hey, we're the actual ones in control of the Strait of Hormuz? Yeah, you guys definitely are. But again, it does cause some disruption, so it's not nothing. What do you guys think happens? What do you think we see in the next few days? Let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. I'm posting there pretty much every day. And then click the link in the description, join the Max Ready Room, become a member of the channel, and then watch this next video that pops up right here. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.